Good afternoon, you all. We're going to go ahead and get started. And so I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order. And we'll start with roll call.
All right. Joy Andrade is excused. Amanda Bryan? Here. Chris Clark? Bruce Davis?
Present. Here.
Diane Fleet?
Here.
T.C. Johnson? Billy Love is excused. Kathy Plowman? Chris Primo? David Schad? Liz Sheehan?
Here.
Lella Still is getting here. She went to the wrong building. She's on her way. And I see Kathy has joined us. So once Lella is here, we will officially have a quorum. But we'll go ahead and get started with the agenda. First would be approval of the meeting minutes for September 11th. While you all review those, I'll just let those who have maybe not joined us here in the room before know we do utilize the overhead speaker system. You can turn on your microphone whenever you would like to speak. It's the person with the sound waves coming out of their mouth, and it will light up red. That lets you know your mic is active. Do ask that you would turn it off when you're not speaking, just to reduce background noise. We have admin support that take our meeting minutes, and it's extremely helpful if they can hear everybody clearly. Any suggested changes or corrections to the meeting minutes?
Jeff, based on Diane's assurance that she's read every line of the minutes, I move approval of the meeting minutes, September 11th.
I appreciate your confidence in me, and I actually have. Yeah.
So I think we actually need to hold that item for official approval until Lella is with us, and then we'll have a quorum. We'll postpone the motion for just a moment, but in the meantime, are there any public or partner comments for issues on the agenda? All right, then we will go ahead and with Joy being out, Marissa Webb from my office will give the report out for the Data and Systems Integration Committee report.
Hello, good afternoon. The Data and Systems Integration Committee met on October 2nd, 2024 at the Eastside Branch Library. We approved the meeting minutes for August 7th, 2024 in new business. We discussed the 2024 to 2025 HMIS Data Quality Plan that passed. Please be aware that if you are an HMIS participating agency, you do need to abide by that plan. And if you have not received it or do not know where you can find that, you can do so at the Resources for Partners tab on our website, lexandhomelessness.com, or you can reach out to myself or Adam and we'd be happy to provide that to you. Another new business item is the fiscal year 2027 comment period is open for HMIS data standards. There's actually a webinar that will be taking place in 1 week from today on November 20th, 2024 that myself and Adam will be attending. That way we can bring that information back to the Data and Systems Integration Committee meeting. But this comment period is basically if you have any suggestions, comments, concerns about our current HMIS data standards. This could be anything from language that is currently used. For example, I put in a comment because HMIS states substance abuse instead of substance use disorder. So it could be something like that. It could be this is just an example of maybe some changes, data that needs to be collected for HMIS that we're currently not collecting for these various fields. But we would love to have a more in-depth discussion about that at our next Data and Systems Integration Committee meeting, especially for those of our folks who utilize HMIS, or even our folks who want to use HMIS but do not yet know. We'd love to have that conversation with you. Moving on to continuing business, a couple of items that we will be needing to vote on is going to be our updated local assessment tool and our housing triage system updates. If you are new, welcome. We are trying to move away from the VSPDAT, and that is because the creator of that assessment tool has actually come out and said that they no longer use that assessment tool, and we really wanted to create a local, personalized tool to Lexington specifically, one that is accurately assessing clients where they are and their acuity needs, as well as taking into account our providers as well and what our providers know to be true that maybe is not entirely self-reported in a tool like the VSPDAT. We created 3 tools. One is our tool similar to our current system. The first tool is going to be for adults age 25 and older. This would include like couples, for example. The second tool is going to be for families, so those with minor children. And then the last tool is going to be for transitional age youth, which is 18 to 24, or those who are unaccompanied youth. So we're still meeting those 3 big buckets as our current assessment tool is currently doing, but we really wanted to make sure that the questions that we were creating in this assessment tool was through the input of not only our folks here, our providers, but also those with lived experience, which we did earlier this year. So we have those 3 tools that should be included in your packet. We know it was a thick one, so but we made a lot of work and effort to pare down these tools to make them as concise as we possibly could, and also make sure that we were gathering all the necessary information. We also have included in that packet as a part of our housing triage system updates, the policies and procedures. Some of the main big takeaways and changes within that document are going to be the move towards dynamic prioritization rather than a static prioritization, but really trying to meet folks where they're currently at and trying to create a coordinated entry system that really targets folks at their current risk, at this current moment, where and how can we prioritize these individuals. We also made, of course, some changes to like the scoring to make sure that it was reflective of our local assessment tool and not our previous assessment tool. And those changes can be found within that policies and procedures document. I'm happy to open it up for any questions, concerns that folks may have. I think the last time, this is actually the second time within this committee that we had voted on this tool, and that was because the first instance, we really loved it, but it was serving a dual purpose, which was to hopefully accurately assess folks in their acuity and also serve as a case management tool, and it became quite lengthy. So we took out a lot of those case management questions away from the actual assessment itself and are working towards including those case management type questions as a separate, maybe perhaps assessment, for lack of a better word, in HMIS as a part of this, right? This is not actually assessing where your client currently is, but is rather what information do we need to know to help you progress towards your housing goals? And that's a little different than what we're doing here. So that's why it was voted on twice in committee and is now being brought to the board.
Did the board have any questions or discussions about the updated policies and procedures and local assessment tools?
And before the board votes, just so that they have full knowledge, kind of going to talk very briefly about next steps. So the next step is not immediate implementation of this tool. Rather, we would like to use the next couple of months to really do some testing to make sure that the tool is accurate and also consistent amongst providers, amongst different types of providers, and making sure that we really are able to provide the adequate training for those who are administering this tool, so that way we can have accurate and complete information before we make this full system-wide. And we really would like to do that because Of course, we want to make sure that if Marissa and Amanda are assessing the same person, we're getting to the same result. And if not, then what changes need to be made? Is it perhaps a training issue? Is it the tool itself? And that's something that we would just need to have this pass through the board and actually be able to start doing some of that selective testing process. And we plan to do that with select partners and select individuals within our partners, just to make sure that we have a wide variety of folks who have previously had the previous assessment tool administered to them, and making sure that we are still consistent in our assessment of acuity.
Definitely glad to take as long as we need another lengthy documents. So feel free if you want to bring anything up. But if you are prepared at any time, we would just need to make a motion. We would have 4 different items that would be up for potential vote today. That would be the policies and procedures document, and then the 3 variations of the assessment tool that Marissa mentioned, the adult, family, and transition age youth tools.
I'll make a motion that we approve that. All 4 of the items.
Thank you. One motion, making it easy on us today. Kathy?
Do we need a second?
I think Kathy's got
Kathy,
our
excuse
second.
me, Kathy, second.
And so all those in favor, this would be a board vote.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, that motion passes. Next, we have our Program Performance and Evaluation Committee report from the chair, Liz Sheehan.
Thank you. Okay, so we met for Program Performance and Evaluation Committee on October 16th at 1:30 at the Eastside Public Library. We started with the approval of our minutes from the August 21st, 2024 meeting, and that passed without dissent. And then we had program reviews from Arbor Youth, New Beginnings, and the Salvation Army. Arbor Youth presented both on their emergency shelter program for their 17 and under. This is an extended social resource program, and their emergency shelter for the 18 to 24-year-olds, which is also an extended social resources program. So we had, data presented and discussion for both. For the 17 and under shelter, we talked about some of the questions that came up were if they had any staff that were bilingual or multilingual, and they do have Spanish-speaking staff there. We talked about their transition to positive youth development that was moving away from rules and punishment to more like promoting positive behavior. And that has been something that has been taking place over the last year or so, and they have had very positive results. And then we talked about their daily census was the question, so how full they typically were. And it does vary a lot, but they stay pretty full for that program. Then for the 18 to 24-year-olds, we had discussion around their target date for an expansion that they are working on that is kind of impending, may have already happened now that we're a month in. They were waiting, they had gotten mattress donations from Tempur-Pedic for the shelter, and then we're kind of working and getting everything into place. We also talked about some challenges that they had for some of their clients that need permanent supportive housing due to disability, and how the challenges there have been significant in getting them placed in more permanent housing. For New Beginnings, some of the discussion for this program was around where they provided services. So they are a Lexington or Fayette County program. And then they were complimented by Jeff on the outreach efforts that they have been doing. And then for Salvation Army, we had a lot of discussion around discussion around the rule restrictions that they have had and whether there would be conversation to kind of reduce some of the rules there. We talked about their ratio of clients to case managers because it seemed like it was pretty high, and what the obstacle was to kind of lower that ratio. So some of that is about funding, and then some of it has been turnover and let's see. Sorry, I'm reading through my notes really quickly. Yeah, funding was an issue, and then it was harder to convince people that are funding their program to increase salaries for those positions to then recruit folks. And then we talked also about some of the trainings that they have been doing with staff over the last year and a half, where they are working with their case managers and other staff within that space about how to interact with residents, how to be more efficient, how to treat each other better, and those kinds of things. So those were all of our presentations. Sorry, I think my mic just cut out. For that particular meeting, we did have a couple public comment or kind of announcements at the end about events that were happening pretty soon. All of those have been have passed, and we also talked about our winter shelter and how that was getting started. Our next meeting for this committee is December 11th at 1:30. It's also at Eastside Branch Library, and we will hear from the Arbor Youth for their rapid rehousing program and Mountain Comp Care for their permanent supportive housing and rapid rehousing programs. That is everything.
Just an additional note, we will have the calendar year 2025 review calendar going to committee in December. So definitely you would want to make sure that you would, if you have any funded programs with us, have someone in attendance or be looking for that meeting packet so that you are aware of when your programs would be on the schedule. Next, we had the Advocacy Issues and Programs Committee report. Bo just actually came to the end of his term, so I am going to go ahead and just do the report out for this month. So the Advocacy Issues and Programs Committee last met on October 23rd at the Don Ball Campus Center. We approved minutes for the August 28th meeting, and then we hosted Goodwill Industries, who gave us a presentation of their Phase 2 housing program. That was something that they have shared with our Department of Housing Advocacy and Community Development. Definitely, it was something that we wanted you all to hear about in terms of some of the positive outcomes that they've had. But definitely there are some areas where it does not fully align with our housing first philosophy and approach. So, we wanted to make sure that it was something that we were bringing to you all so that the board can consider if that would be a type of program that we might want in the diversity of housing stock that we have available. And then after their presentation, we had some updates on lived experience engagement from Marissa Webb in the Office of Homelessness Prevention and Intervention. She shared how feedback from persons with lived experience was incorporated and used to adjust the weight score of our COC competition tool. And then we are having some additional efforts that we're in the process of planning very soon to go ahead and get some additional information from persons. And we expect that to be something that we hold later this month. One of the things that we definitely want to focus on is while we're doing things like our shelter study, that we are getting input from people about the needs of our shelter system. Then we also received some program standards updates from Marissa, primarily being that we have a meeting planned for next Wednesday at 1:30 to review permanent supportive housing standards. Providers have received notification of that meeting. It's going to be here in the Phoenix building in the 5th floor conference room. We will definitely look forward to seeing you all there. And then we had just an announcement about our next meeting being December 18th. As a reminder to you all, that will be bumped up a week due to the Christmas holiday. Didn't think any of you wanted to spend Christmas Day with us. All right. Any questions about the Advocacy Committee report?
I had a quick question. You said, Jeff, that something about next week we're all supposed to be at something? Or?
We're going to do a review for our permanent supportive housing standards. Those standards documents govern kind of consistency across our different providers, regardless of funding source or what population that they might serve. So definitely permanent supportive housing providers should plan to be in attendance, but it would also be open to any other board or member of the continuum that would like to participate in review of those standards.
Thank you.
All right. If there are no other questions, it looks like I'm going to be on a roll here for a couple minutes. We'll start with an encampment SOP and review report. So we had only 4 cleanups that were performed in the period since we last met. The first of those, location 1 in the packet, was on New Circle Road. This was notified to the OHPI by police on September 3rd. This was actually an issue where we had reports of potential persons inside a drainage tunnel. And so we had some safety concerns and wanted to quickly get outreach out before them. They were out that same day and made no active contact and did not see any signs of active encampment. It did look like there were some folks possibly using that as a hangout spot because there was some trash and debris, but we did not find anybody that was residing there at the time. Outreach and police continue to look at that, and we also made sure that folks from other divisions here at the city would be able to alert us if they saw any evidence of that. So since this was not an active encampment, we did not do any posting, and that was cleaned and removed on September 10th, cost being $1,025. Location number 2 is an emphasis area at the Nicholasville Road Man of War Bridge. We had notice of activity on September 16th from Environmental Services. There was a crew out there that was mowing and came across some individuals. Outreach made an attempt the same day, but did not find anybody out there, any signs of an active encampment. They reported it looked like there were some folks that were rough sleeping in the area. There was a significant amount of trash and debris underneath the overpass. They made at least one more additional attempt, but it looks like as soon as the contractors had notified the individuals that they relocated. So as an emphasis area, we can technically go ahead and do an immediate clearing, but we still gave some time to monitor, make sure that no one was actively staying there. That was cleaned and removed on September 30th at a cost of $1,850. Location number 3, correction to the packet would be that this was also an emphasis area. We were notified of the activity by code enforcement on October 16th. There was one individual engaged by street outreach the following day. He was informed of that being an emphasis area and what that means in terms of it could be cleared at any time. He was offered access to shelter. Outreach confirmed that he had no restriction. He decided to go ahead and relocate voluntarily, did not immediately go to shelter, but did form a relationship with outreach for some ongoing case management supports. This one was cleared on October 19th at a cost of $450. Location number 4 was also an emphasis area. It was not something that we received notice of. It was just a routine check and cleanup performed by Environmental Services. And they did that on September 21st, and the cost was $1,650. So of the 4 locations cleared in this time period, the total costs were just under $5,000 with an average cost per cleanup of $1,243.75. Only one of the 4 camps had any contacts made. That individual did engage in services and voluntarily relocated. That makes our average cleanup cost so far for fiscal year 25 about $1,355 with 8 different unique locations and 10 cleanups performed since July 1. Any questions regarding the encampment report? Yeah.
I'm going blank, but House bill that went into effect in July, okay, I'm going to put the wrong number on it. Is there any type of update on that and any impact do you see or anything happen on that with the homeless?
So we are doing things like trying to keep communication with police and kind of monitor the impact. Initially in Lexington, there were probably about 15 citations in each month, the first 2 months, but that's dropped significantly. The last report that we would have received, I believe for the month of October, there were only 6 citations, and those were all instances from the notes that we saw that likely would have resulted in some law enforcement contact, even if camping had not been an element of the situation. Things like maybe somebody being non-responsive, passed out on the street somewhere. So we are trying to continue to work through and communicate with those scenarios. Are there things that we can do to better communicate resources? I've had a lot of different communication with police officers and beyond kind of the officers that we would typically work with, like the neighborhood resource officers. So they are doing a really good job of trying to assertively provide information. We also know that there are some other groups that are taking a look at this kind of at a national level. I believe the ACLU is taking a look and trying to see what the kind of impact is. We've also been communicating with the local HUD field office. They recently resumed all grantee meetings, and all 3 COCs took the implementation of House Bill 5 as a concern to them. They've scheduled a meeting for next week for us to be able to look at possibly reintroducing some of the COVID flexibilities that had been available for the Emergency Solutions Grant Program. And that would do things like allow additional sign-on bonuses and security deposits for landlords that wanted to partner in programs, and just some other financial flexibilities regulatorily that definitely would make it slightly easier for people to get individuals housed. The only kind of concern is that's only limited to the ESG program. And in Lexington, the only ESG funded housing program we presently have is Arbor Youth's Rapid Rehousing Program. So it's not something that would be like across all the COC programs. So there's definitely a lot of other things that we still need to do, but we are seeing, at least from our partners, both of the HUD field office and then locally, a lot of commitment to trying to generate additional strategies.
My other question would be the citations that were issued, is that just the first time without any type of charge monetary?
So typically, and I can't guarantee this would be the experience that someone would have every time, but also having communications with the Fayette County Attorney's Office. And generally what's happened is on the first offense, it's usually being thrown out. And then I'm only aware of a couple of scenarios where there's been some repeat folks that have been back, and they are really trying to make sure that there is service connection available. So I know that there have been a couple of actual fines imposed, but definitely there's a large number that are not going to that level. Other questions on the encampment report? All right, we'll go ahead and move into the director's report, starting with a budget update. We still have a nominal balance on our 23 fiscal year ARPA funds of just under $300. Similar, we have 17 cents remaining on fiscal year 24 ARPA budget, and I actually am going to be using those balances to purchase some incentives for our lived experience engagement activities and some bus passes to help support participants of the winter shelter program. So those balances will be expended, and next meeting will probably be the last time that you see a report on those years. 24, we also then did receive an additional $750,000 on that year. And so we are still working to spend through some of those funds, but you'll see that there's a lot that's mixed in there. There was also funding for things like the shelter study that is now underway. And then this money will be rolling forward to fiscal year 25. Fiscal year 25, we have went ahead and mapped out what will be required for our COC planning grant match, for our HMIS subsidy, which has already been paid. And then we have the new second year renewal of street outreach with the Hope Center. And we have the ability to renew the intensive case management and landlord partnership programs, which just got funded right around the start of the fiscal year. So at present, that leaves us with a balance of $661,000 for fiscal year 25 in innovative and sustainable solutions. We do have a couple of RFPs that are just about ready to release, just trying to hold while my office is in a state of operating a shelter, being a little over our capacity. Additionally, we would have the ability to also look to see if there's any unmet needs related to winter, even though that's technically not innovative and sustainable solutions funding. It was deposited in the 1145 account. So I wanted to make sure that you were aware of what we're doing with that money. We would have a Bluegrass Care Navigators program to provide support for persons who are elderly and disabled. And then the bulk of the funding is going to go to support our general motel shelter program. Right now, you're not going to see a lot of expenditures there. At the time that I was preparing this report, there were still a lot of agreements that were being executed and POs being established. So we'll have a much more accurate picture of that funding when we come to the next board meeting. But for now, definitely open for any questions related to the budget.
Curious where that 17 cents goes.
You know,
big item.
there was a previous agreement that had like a random 17-cent amount on it and did not include it when I did another agreement, because I thought this is really strange to write someone's agreement for a very, very specific amount. And it just never got spent any other way, but they don't want to BA it to another account. So I'm going to have to do a check request that has a separate line for the 17 cents. All right. Next, we would have the fiscal year 25 board and committee meeting schedule. This year, we were lucky enough that we were able to get this space for all of our board meetings with no confusing occurrences where we meet in the council chambers, which was a little bit formal for our group. And then for our committee meetings, as some of you know, we encountered a couple of issues with some of the library space that we had available I was told during that process that they couldn't guarantee reservations that far in advance. So just to kind of make something easy, where there was ample parking and we were trying to avoid scheduling conflicts, we are going to do all 3 of our committee meetings at the Dawn Ball Campus Center. And that will be in the normal space where we've held this year our Advocacy Issues and Programs Committee. Did note the December occurrences of PP&E and advocacy committees as those were adjusted due to the holidays. But unless I've missed it, no other dates that we meet should fall on a holiday and require any adjustments. But definitely feel free to let me know of any issues that you see. But this would be an item that we would seek a board vote on today.
So we need a motion. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the dates for 2025? Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay. I have 2 seconds.
All right, and Breda can choose either Kathy or Bruce for the second. All those in favor, this is a board vote.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that motion passes. So that brings us down to a reminder, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, that our next meeting will be January 8th, 2025. We will meet here in this room at 1:30. Now we'll open it up for issues and public sharing for items not on the agenda. Yeah, we do need to do that. Thank you. Bruce has reminded me that we were waiting for a quorum and skipped over our meeting minutes. So I'd like to go back to Bruce's motion to approve the meeting minutes for September 11th. Is there a second? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that motion passes. Other announcements or items?
I was just going to share, this will be my last meeting. I did not run for office, and I've been on this for 8 years, I believe. Started with Polly, and then obviously Jeff, and it's been my pleasure, and learned a lot. I used to be with United Way for years, and so I knew a lot of the acronyms, but I'm so glad when I came onto this committee, I got another one sheet with all of the acronyms that we use. But it has been my pleasure and my passion over the years, so thank you. Appreciate your leadership.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate your service to the board, but I also know that it goes beyond just your participation in the board itself. I know that you provide a lot of support to a number of the organizations. We were actually just talking before today's meeting about your role in the community, the history that you have with Greenhouse 17. You are an amazing person, and we really appreciate everything that you've done for this board, our membership, and the community. Anything else?
Okay, I'll give you all an update on Fayette County Public School McKinney-Bento. We are currently at 647 students that are displaced. One of our greatest challenges right now is that we have so many families that are transitioned. We are finding families almost now, I can almost say daily, that are we're finding them in cars. And so, again, I want to give Charlie Linter a shout out for the Hands Up for Housing program that is working well. It's just a process of us working with our families to get them with some sustainability. We now have 61 referrals that we've actually done to that program. Also, we're working with, again, with Catholic Action Center with Give a Kids a Home. They now have more connectors that's been trained to work with our families on, again, sustainability. And I know that we're probably wearing Marty out. with the winter shelter applications. So we're just making it happen. Again, it's challenging to have so many students, and right now the transit, us trying to get, one day they're at one hotel, the next day they're at another hotel, so just trying to get them transported back and forth to school to ensure that they're in school is still a challenge. I know we're keeping Salvation Army full, we're keeping Greenhouse 17 full, and we have students at Arbor Youth, so it's been busy. We didn't have this many kids last year till December. December we had about 600. We're already at 647. It'll probably be 650 by the time I get back to the office.
So I appreciate the update. Wanted to make sure that you're aware that my office is looking at a process to try to reopen winter shelter applications. So in addition to what emergency family housing can do and directly taking referrals for now, we're going to have that resumed very soon, and when we have all agreements signed, I'll go ahead and get that information out to our membership. We do anticipate that, we may not have immediate placements for people with our capacity, but we are going to be looking continually and have that mechanism to receive new applications, screen them for our priorities and for acuity, and make sure that as we have spots that open up, that those would go towards the prioritized households. Additionally, I know you mentioned Give Kids a Home. Through that process, Catholic Action Center and my office are going to kind of collaborate. We're going to look and see which families might be most appropriate to go directly to emergency family housing. We can use some of the rooms that we have in our winter shelter program to kind of bridge until there's other options available. And I know their program would also be able to place some families. So hang in there. I think that we definitely are all committed to trying to do what we can to help your families.
Thank you all. And if you would like to volunteer or donate something, we are having our Thanksgiving dinner for our families that are in hotels right now. It's going to be November the 24th at 450 Park Place from 1 to 4. And so we are in the process of organizing that right now. We're planning on feeding at least 100.
Thank you, TC. Other updates or announcements?
I guess just because you mentioned that, so in a selfish sort of way, personally, for Greenhouse 17, we're doing our holiday gift drive. So if anybody wants to look at our website, we usually just do like a Santa shop so that moms can shop for their kids and kids shop for their moms. And so it's not really like an adopted, like an angel tree kind of thing. But if you want to check it out, it's on our website, and you can actually order right on Amazon if that's easier and have it shipped directly to Greenhouse 17. And then unrelated, and I know that we should stay always objective, but congratulations, Liz, on your election win. And you hold so much here at the board. So glad to see you still here with us. Yeah.
Let me say also to you, Diane, that if you, for any of your families that you have that are McKinney-Vento, we do have a sponsor that is going to sponsor all Christmas for every child in the family. So just make that connection with me on who you have, and we'll get that information to them so that they can complete the form to fill that.
We appreciate your donor.
And they are actually doing, ever how many families we have, they are doing all the families that have not already, they can't double dip. So if they've already signed up for the Angel Tree, they cannot double dip. So for those families that have not signed up, they can sign up, and they, like, if they have a baby, if they have a 2-year-old, they're gonna do the entire families.
That makes the coordinating of that so much easier.
Yeah, and they're even gonna deliver it, so I'm like, oh my gosh, that's great, so.
All right, anything else? If not, is there a motion to adjourn? All right, thank you, TC. See everybody in 2025.